For centuries, the Milky Way had been a forbidden frontier. The rules were clear. No one was allowed to venture near Earth's galaxy. To the countless advanced civilizations scattered across the cosmos, the idea of breaking that rule was unthinkable. It wasn't just about distance or power, it was about survival. And yet, one group of explorers, driven by curiosity and a hunger for something they couldn't understand, did the unthinkable. They dared to defy the most sacred of boundaries, and it cost them everything. The first time they came close to the edge, they were nothing but shadows, obscure travelers in search of an anomaly, a planet lost to the forgotten pages of history. Their technology was beyond anything Earth had ever imagined, capable of moving vast distances in the blink of an eye. Yet, they had never encountered anything like this. The moment they crossed into the Milky Way, something stirred. It was a feeling, a presence that they couldn't explain, one that seemed to watch them from the very stars themselves. A force so vast and ancient that even the universe seemed to shudder at its touch. But they couldn't stop. They had to know what lay beyond the boundary. And that's when they found it, the humans. Unseen, untouched, and waiting. The planet Earth, so small in the grand scale of the galaxy, yet pulsing with a strange and unpredictable energy that made every other civilization seem tame in comparison. The beings that had crossed the threshold of this forbidden zone had come looking for knowledge, for power. But they found something else instead: humanity. They found a species unlike any other A-race that had endured, survived, and thrived against all odds. But the more they observed, the more they realized they had made a grave mistake. Humanity was not just a curiosity, it was a force unto itself. The explorers had no way of knowing it at first, but Earth's people were not what they seemed. Their stories of survival, of wars and conflicts fought in the name of freedom and hope, painted a picture of resilience that no alien civilization had ever seen before. The more they watched, the more they understood. Breaking the rule was not just an invasion of space, it was an invasion of humanity itself. As the explorers began to make their presence known, something unexpected happened. Earth wasn't afraid. Earth didn't back down. Instead, it began to fight back against the invaders, against the unknown. They may have been the ones who crossed the line first, but humanity, in all its unpredictable glory, was ready to show them that the real boundary had always been the will to survive. And they hadn't even seen the beginning of what that meant yet. With every passing moment, the situation grew more dire. The invaders were beginning to regret their decision. But it was too late. They had underestimated humanity, and now they were about to learn a harsh lesson in the price of breaking the galaxy's most sacred rule. Would Earth be able to stand against forces far beyond its reach, or would it fall under the weight of an unimaginable power? The answer was still to come. The invaders had always thought themselves invincible. They were an ancient species, capable of traveling between galaxies, their ships powered by technology that bent the very fabric of space-time. Their mission was simple: explore, conquer, and grow their empire. The galaxy was a vast playground for them, and no one had ever dared challenge their rule. But the Milky Way, Earth's home, had remained a forbidden zone sealed off by the ancient council that governed the cosmos. No one really knew why, only that it was a place where no one should go. The explorers who ventured into this restricted space were part of a secret faction within their empire, rogue elements who had grown restless, yearning for more than the empire's cold, calculated expansion. They believed they could handle whatever dangers lurked in the forbidden zone. But they hadn't counted on humanity's resilience. And they definitely hadn't expected the strange pull they felt when they first laid eyes on Earth. As their ships moved closer to the planet, they noticed the anomaly, a strange energy signature that emanated from the surface. It wasn't anything they had ever encountered before, something raw and primal, almost like a living thing. It drew them in, compelling them to land, to investigate. But as they approached, the atmosphere itself seemed to resist them, as if the planet itself was aware of their presence. They disregarded it, attributing the odd sensation to nothing more than the stress of crossing such a vast distance. But the moment their boots hit the ground, everything changed. The humans were nothing like they had expected. At first glance, they seemed fragile, weak even, with their soft skin and limited strength. Yet, as the explorers tried to probe deeper into the planet's history, they discovered something that made them hesitate. Humanity had survived countless catastrophes, wars, famine, disease, environmental collapse, and still they had endured. The scars of their past were visible in every corner of their world, but they had never given up. It was this tenacity, this unyielding will to survive, that made the invaders uneasy. They had read stories of Earth's history, of the conflicts that had raged between its people, but they hadn't truly understood the depth of it. The great wars, the rise and fall of empires, the terrible struggles for freedom and justice, it was all woven into the very fabric of humanity's identity. There was an untapped strength within these people, a strength that could not be measured by technology or firepower alone. The invaders who had once believed themselves superior now began to feel a creeping doubt. Could they truly control such a species? The answer came when the humans noticed them. At first, they were careful, studying the invaders from a distance. But it didn't take long for them to realize they were not alone. Earth's leaders, scattered across the world, began to receive strange signals, inexplicable bursts of communication from the edge of space. The governments, the scientists, the military, they all scrambled to make sense of it. They tried to stay calm, to keep the knowledge of this new threat contained, but they couldn't. Soon, the world knew. Soon, the world was united in fear and confusion. And then came the first sign of resistance. A small group of human fighters, trained for the unexpected, began to infiltrate the invaders' perimeter. They were the ones who understood the danger, who knew that if they didn't act quickly, everything they had fought for, their very way of life, would be lost. The invaders had underestimated humanity, and now they were beginning to see that humans were not as helpless as they had first appeared. Every move the invaders made, every step closer they got to Earth's heart, only strengthened the humans' resolve. The explorers had crossed a line, and they didn't know it yet. And as the first human resistance cells clashed with the invaders, another unknown element began to stir, something that could shift the entire balance of power in the galaxy. The invaders had broken the rule. But they hadn't yet realized that humanity had always been more than just a simple, isolated species. With every passing moment, the tension mounted. And somewhere, deep in the shadows of the galaxy, a voice whispered, a voice from the past, one that had been waiting for this moment. A voice that knew the consequences of the invaders' actions better than anyone. But was it too late for them to turn back? The answers were about to come, and they would come at a price. The invaders had thought Earth was just another backwater planet, a curiosity, something to explore for the sake of knowledge, perhaps even to conquer for resources. But they had made a grave mistake. As they tried to establish a foothold on the planet, they quickly learned that humanity's resilience went far beyond anything they had imagined. What began as a few minor skirmishes with resistance cells quickly spiraled into something far more complex. The humans weren't just fighting with their weapons. They were fighting with their will, with everything they had ever known, everything they had ever fought for. Their survival instinct, honed over centuries of hardship, was now their greatest weapon. And the invaders, despite all their technology and superior numbers, began to realize they were outmatched in ways they hadn't considered. In the midst of this growing conflict, a strange truth began to surface. The humans were not alone. There was something in the background, something ancient, stirring at the edges of their conflict. It wasn't just the invaders who had broken the galactic rules. The Earth itself seemed to be alive in ways the explorers didn't understand. There were whispers among their own ranks that the planet had some kind of guardian force, a power that had been waiting for the right moment to reveal itself. Some of the explorers dismissed it as superstition, but others felt a creeping dread that they couldn't shake. Meanwhile, on Earth, the growing unity among humanity's various factions, nations, political divides, and rivalries was beginning to crumble. Faced with an outside threat, the planet's inhabitants found common ground in a way they never had before. Governments that had once been at odds with one another now coordinated their efforts to repel the invaders. Soldiers who had been taught to distrust each other were now fighting side by side. In the chaos, there were stories of ordinary people stepping up to lead, to fight, to sacrifice. It was in these moments that the true power of humanity revealed itself when pushed to the edge, When survival was at stake, they became unstoppable. Yet, the invaders were not standing still. As Earth's resistance grew, so did the invaders' desperation. They began to employ darker tactics, pushing the boundaries of their technology, trying to unravel the mystery of humanity's strange power. They discovered too late that every action they took, every invasion of Earth's space, seemed to awaken something within the planet. The more they attacked, the stronger the resistance became. And with each passing day, the planet itself seemed to resist them even more fiercely. At the heart of this conflict, a small group of humans, led by a former soldier turned reluctant leader, had uncovered a hidden truth. There was something more to this struggle than simple survival. There were ancient artifacts, scattered across Earth, that held clues to the very forces at play in this cosmic war. These artifacts were tied to humanity's distant past, to a time when Earth was part of something much larger, much older than anyone had realized. The invaders, in their arrogance, had failed to notice the significance of these relics, assuming them to be meaningless. But for the humans, they were the key to everything. As this group delved deeper into the mystery, they began to uncover disturbing revelations. The artifacts seemed to resonate with an energy that had been dormant for eons. It was as if Earth itself had been waiting for this moment, waiting for someone to come and unlock the power buried deep within its core. The more the humans uncovered, the more they realized that this was not just a battle for survival, it was a battle for something far greater. But the invaders were closing in. Every move the humans made was met with retaliation. The invaders were no longer just trying to conquer, they were trying to destroy. And with every step, they were getting closer to unlocking the true potential of humanity's power. But there was something they still didn't understand, something that would change everything. In the final moments before the next phase of the conflict would unfold, a strange signal, an encrypted message, was intercepted. It wasn't from the invaders. It wasn't even from Earth. It was from somewhere beyond the known universe, from a place that no one had dared to explore. The message was simple, yet chilling. They've broken the rule. Now they will pay the price. The invaders had thought they were the only ones with the power to change the fate of the galaxy. But they were wrong. Earth had always been more than just a planet. And now, the consequences of their actions were about to be felt in ways they never could have imagined. As the tension on Earth reached its breaking point, both sides knew that the next move would be crucial. The invaders, confident in their overwhelming power, had pushed humanity to the brink. Their ships filled the skies, their technology ravaging entire cities. But still, humanity refused to break. The resistance grew stronger by the day, and despite the losses, the fight for Earth was far from over. The humans had found their strength in unity, in their shared purpose, and it had become clear that their defiance was not a temporary struggle. This was something much larger. But as Earth's defenders fortified their last strongholds, a cold realization began to set in. There was something they hadn't fully understood about the artifacts they had uncovered. The more they studied them, the more it became clear that these relics weren't just relics. They were part of a larger network, a mechanism far older than any civilization in the galaxy. The artifacts were tied to the very fabric of the galaxy itself, perhaps even to the cosmic forces that had dictated the Milky Way's forbidden status in the first place. Whoever controlled them could control far more than Earth. Now, the humans were faced with a terrible choice. The invaders had pushed them to the edge, but humanity's last hope rested with a small team of explorers who had ventured deep into the heart of the enemy's territory. This group, made up of soldiers, scientists, and historians, had one goal: to infiltrate the enemy's main ship, to reach the central command, and to learn what the invaders knew about the true power hidden within Earth. They didn't have much time. The invaders were preparing their final assault, a weapon that could wipe out any remaining resistance in an instant. In the midst of this desperate mission, a strange and terrifying discovery was made. One of the key artifacts, the most important one, had started to resonate in a way no one expected. It was almost as if it was alive, pulsing, vibrating, as if it had been waiting for the right moment to awaken. The closer they got to the invader's ship, the stronger the energy became. It was as if the artifact and the invaders were both drawn to it, pulling in all those who sought it, bringing both sides closer to an inevitable clash. The resistance fighters scattered across the globe, prepared for the coming battle. They knew that this would be the final stand, the moment when humanity's fate would either be sealed or secured. The invaders were relentless, their tactics growing more brutal by the day. They had already begun their assault on the last human strongholds, targeting major cities and key infrastructure. But despite everything, humanity's spirit had not wavered. It was as if the very core of their being, their determination to survive, had sparked something within the planet itself. And then, without warning, the signal came. It wasn't from the invaders or from Earth. It was from somewhere beyond. The message was brief, cryptic, and chilling. The reckoning is near. The galaxy is about to witness what happens when the rule is broken. The humans had no idea what this meant. They only knew that the invaders were not the only ones who had been watching. Someone was waiting for the outcome of this conflict. The message seemed to confirm what many had feared. The breaking of the galactic rule had set something in motion, something that could either save humanity or doom them all. The atmosphere was thick with anticipation. As the final battle loomed, every move seemed to carry the weight of the galaxy itself. The invaders' fleet gathered in the skies above Earth, preparing for what they believed would be the last assault. Humanity's resistance, battered and broken, was readying for their own final stand. The artifact was close now, closer than ever, and the invaders were determined to seize it before humanity could fully unlock its secrets. And then, in the depths of the chaos, a terrible question arose. What if Earth's true power was not just in its will to survive, but in something much darker? What if the invaders had unknowingly awakened something far more dangerous than they ever imagined? The world held its breath, and time seemed to stand still as the forces of Earth and the invaders collided in a final catastrophic clash. Everything depended on what happened next. Would humanity's fight for survival be enough to change the course of the galaxy? Or had they unwittingly triggered something far worse, something that could tear them all apart? The answer was closer than ever, but it remained just out of reach. As the battle raged above Earth, something unexpected began to happen. The energy from the ancient artifact had grown uncontrollable, surging through the resistance fighters, through the land, and even into the very atmosphere itself. The invaders had no idea what they were dealing with. The artifact wasn't just a key, it was a catalyst, a conduit for something much older and more powerful than anyone had imagined. It was clear now, the rule the Galactic Council had enforced for eons wasn't just about keeping out invaders, it was about preventing Earth from ever realizing its true potential. The invaders had tried to make contact with Earth's leaders, attempting to strike a deal, but there were no negotiations. The resistance fighters, who'd been scattered and desperate, were now a united front. They fought not just for survival, but for something much more profound, a destiny that had been waiting for them for millennia. The discovery of the artifact had awakened an energy they could barely comprehend, and it seemed as if the planet itself was answering their call. But as they pushed forward, they began to realize the artifact's true nature. It wasn't just a weapon, it was a trigger. And then came the shock that no one was prepared for. Amidst the chaos, a small group of explorers who had infiltrated the heart of the invaders' fleet stumbled upon something they hadn't expected, a secret hidden in plain sight. A massive ship, unlike anything they had seen before, hovered at the edge of the enemy's main command center. It was ancient, but not of the invaders' making. This was something far older, something far more connected to Earth itself. As they explored its dark corridors, the truth began to unfold before them. This ship, this vessel, was not just a relic, it was the key to something far more catastrophic. The invaders had been deceived. They had believed they were the first to discover Earth, the first to break the galactic rule. But they were wrong. Earth had been visited long before, by a civilization far older, one that had hidden its power deep within the planet. And now, as the invaders attempted to seize control, they were unknowingly triggering a force that had been dormant for eons, one that was tied to the very essence of Earth. But what was even more shocking was the discovery within the ship. A single message, encrypted in an ancient language, spoke of a prophecy. The message claimed that the breaking of the galactic rule would lead to a time when the children of Earth would rise, and they would either save the galaxy or destroy it. The invaders had unknowingly set this prophecy in motion, and now humanity was at the heart of a cosmic reckoning. The explorers were left with a devastating realization. Earth's true power was not just about survival. It was a test, one that humanity had unknowingly been preparing for since the dawn of time. The artifact wasn't just a key to unlock power, it was the key to a greater conflict, one that spanned the entire galaxy. The choices made in these final moments would determine the fate of not just Earth, but every civilization in the galaxy. As the humans on the ground prepared for their final push, the invaders' fleet began to falter. Their once unshakable confidence had started to crumble as they realized the enormity of what they had awakened. They had come to conquer, but they were now in the fight of their lives. The strange energy that had enveloped the planet was growing stronger, and it was clear that Earth was no longer just a battlefield, it was a force unto itself. The countdown to the final confrontation had begun. The invaders had underestimated humanity's will to survive, but they had also underestimated Earth's true nature. And as the artifact's power surged, a new question emerged. What if humanity wasn't the only one who had been waiting for this moment? The resistance fighters, now fully aware of the stakes, pushed forward with everything they had. But the deeper they ventured, the more they realized that the line between ally and enemy was becoming blurred. Who or what would emerge victorious in this final battle? The answers were just beyond their grasp, but one thing was certain: the galaxy would never be the same again. And as the final moments of the battle approached, a final chilling message came through the comms. The reckoning has begun. The children of Earth are waking. The ship's engines roared to life, and in the distance, the stars seemed to tremble as the galaxy's fate hung in the balance. The battle was now in full force, as humanity's final stand against the invaders reached its peak. The sky above Earth seemed to explode with energy, as both sides collided in a cataclysmic struggle for survival. The invaders, sensing the impending danger, threw everything they had at the resistance, but the humans, fueled by desperation and unity, pushed back with an intensity that had never been seen before. The artifact's power surged through them, infusing their strength, their will, and their determination. It was as if Earth itself had joined the fight. As the resistance forces advanced on the invaders' command center, the explorers who had uncovered the secret ship began to piece together the final revelations. The ship, with its hidden message and cryptic prophecy, was not merely a weapon, it was the heart of the galactic rule. The children of Earth were not just humans. They were the descendants of an ancient race, gifted with the power to either save or destroy everything around them. The invaders had been wrong about Earth, and now, as the artifact's power ignited, the galaxy was about to witness what the children of Earth were capable of. Inside the heart of the invader's ship, the resistance fighters made their move. The central command was in chaos. The invaders, who had once thought themselves unstoppable, now found themselves at the mercy of humanity's resolve. Yet, as the final assault neared its climax, the humans made an unsettling discovery. The invaders were not acting alone. A hidden chamber deep within the ship revealed a shocking truth. The invaders had not only been sent to conquer Earth, they had been sent to awaken something much older. The true nature of the artifact wasn't just about the power of Earth. It was about the ancient race that had once ruled the galaxy, the race that had seeded the galaxy with life, and whose remnants had long since disappeared. The invaders, desperate to reclaim their place as rulers, had been led to Earth not to conquer it, but to unleash the last remnants of that ancient race's power. But as the resistance reached the final level of the command center, they realized that the artifact had already begun to awaken something else entirely, something far more dangerous than the invaders had anticipated. The last part of the prophecy spoke of a final trial, a test that would determine who truly held the power of the galaxy. Earth's power was not just a tool for survival, it was a catalyst for the ultimate choice. As the invaders' fleet began to fall apart, the humans realized they had to act quickly. The artifact's energy was growing uncontrollable, and if they didn't make the right decision, the entire galaxy could be consumed by it. The explorers who had uncovered the secret message raced to stop the final activation. The very fabric of the galaxy seemed to tremble, as the artifact began to pulse with an energy that threatened to tear apart everything it touched. In the final moments, the unexpected twist came. As the artifact's power reached its peak, the galaxy's hidden forces were revealed. The children of Earth were not alone. They had been waiting for this moment. From the depths of space, ancient beings, long thought to be extinct, began to awaken. They were not enemies, but something far more complex beings who had been watching Earth, guiding it toward this moment, ensuring its survival through time. But as the humans stood ready to make the ultimate choice, they were faced with a shocking revelation. The power of the artifact wasn't just in their hands, it was tied to them, their emotions, their choices. They had the ability to reshape the galaxy, but only at a terrible cost. The power to save everything or destroy everything was theirs, and the weight of that decision hung heavily over them. And, just as the resistance prepared to make their move, the last words of the prophecy echoed in their minds. The reckoning is not over. The final trial has only just begun. The artifact's energy surged once more, and in a flash, everything changed. The invaders' ships exploded in a blinding light, and Earth itself seemed to be reborn. But what came next, what the humans had unlocked, was far beyond anything they had prepared for. As the dust settled, the question remained, had they saved the galaxy, or had they triggered something far more dangerous than they could ever understand? The final truth had yet to reveal itself, and Earth's true destiny was still unfolding. The reckoning was not over. The light from the artifact began to fade, and the tremors that had rocked the planet finally ceased. Silence hung in the air as the dust of battle settled, leaving only the echoes of what had just transpired. Earth had changed, but what that change meant was still uncertain. The invaders' fleet had been obliterated, their command center reduced to nothing more than a twisted wreckage in space. But the humans who had fought for survival found themselves facing a new, even more profound question: what had they truly unleashed? As the remnants of the ancient ship pulsed with residual energy, the humans who had uncovered its secrets understood the gravity of their actions. They had awakened something far older, something beyond even the scope of their ancestors' wildest dreams. The beings who had been watching from the shadows, the ancient guardians of Earth's true power, had revealed themselves. They were not invaders, but protectors, beings who had been ensuring the survival of Earth for eons, guiding humanity toward its moment of reckoning. But the choices made now were theirs alone. The final test had been passed, but the consequences of that test were not yet fully known. With the artifact's power still lingering in the atmosphere, the humans were left to decide how to wield it. The Guardians offered them a choice: to continue the path of peace and healing, or to embrace the full extent of the power they had unlocked, something that could change the very fabric of the galaxy. The humans stood at the precipice of destiny, the weight of the universe on their shoulders. They had fought for survival, but now they had to decide what kind of future they wanted. Would they rebuild from the ashes, ensuring Earth's place in the galaxy as a beacon of hope and unity, or would they become the force that reshaped everything? The resistance fighters, once divided, now stood together, their bond forged in the fires of conflict. The decision was not an easy one, but in that moment, they knew one thing for certain: they would not let Earth fall into chaos. After moments of quiet deliberation, it was clear what had to be done. The humans, guided by the wisdom of the Guardians and their newfound understanding of the artifact's true nature, chose the path of peace. They would use the power they had awakened, not as a weapon, but as a force for rebuilding, for uniting the scattered civilizations of the galaxy. Earth would no longer be just a planet on the edge of the galaxy, it would be the center of a new age of collaboration and hope. With that choice made, the energy of the artifact faded into the stars, becoming a part of the universe once more, leaving humanity with the tools to build something greater. The Guardians, their purpose fulfilled, faded into the cosmos, leaving behind only the legacy of their guidance. The humans had passed the final trial, not through violence, but through the strength of their unity and their ability to make the right choice. As Earth began its long recovery, the people looked to the stars with a new sense of purpose. They were no longer just survivors, they were leaders of a new era. The galaxy had witnessed their power, their resilience, and now they would see what humanity could accomplish when it stood together. The reckoning had ended, but humanity's journey was only just beginning. With the artifact's power now part of their legacy, and the Guardians watching from afar, Earth would rise not as a planet under threat, but as a symbol of hope for all the galaxy. The children of Earth had proven themselves, and in doing so, they had shown the universe what humanity was truly capable of. The future was theirs to shape.